Yeah, like what I did is like I just have.
You don't score. If you score a certain level, they also put you in different brackets. So like if you only score like so, they just put you at like this one range of judges. You could still judge, but you
but then for certain meets, if you only get 85, I think if you get above a 90, you're
but then you retain it.
All right, let's get rolling. We are recording this. The goal is so that we can like share this out over time. So it's not just for our intimate audience. So first of all, we have Liam Burr. He's one of my former gymnasts. Judged 2 years so far. Basically right out of high school. So he's kind of got a very different perspective from the rest of us. Alex, our West coach. Last year was your first year judging. You signed back up this year, jumping back into the fray. Orna, Biden coach, and also first year judge last year. We got to judge together at a MSL conference. All right, so for each of you, we just go in order. How did you prepare and get yourself feeling like, yeah, I can do this, I'm confident enough, I'm ready to take my first lead? So just go in order.
For me, pretty much, my experience was definitely a lot less than what you guys had. You guys definitely don't understand the events and stuff like that way better than I do now, and even back then. For me, again, coming from a different understanding of the rule book and everything, for me it was just straight study the rule book for like 3 months straight, and you just learn the interps and understand. I would say understanding the interps and how they are applied actually in a meet and how they can affect the routine as you actually are judging it. I would say the interps are probably the most important thing to understand, apart from all the tricks, of course, you do a bit, but the interps and how they can apply to the actual routine and a lot of practice routines. I don't know if there's a better place to do it now, but I would just find random old high school routines from Miles West on our YouTube page, and I would just go through and score them like 10 or 15 routines a day a month. And it's just getting into the idea of like, because even though I understood gymnastics and you guys know all the tricks a lot more than I would, just getting that habit of writing down and understanding, being comfortable with like actually watching a routine and not looking down at your paper and then looking back up, just getting into the habit of doing this and making it clear as you're writing it as well, and understanding how you're going to write it, because every judge doesn't have to do the same, horizontally.
We'll get into some of those.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how about you, Alex?
I mean, I had the advantage of being in a gym, so what I did was I picked, and the way from my wrestling we do it, we split up. Coach Nowakowski takes 3 events, I take 3 events. So those are naturally the 3 events that I was the most comfortable with. So I took those, and literally just when I had kids do routines or even half routines, I would have Coach Nowakowski come over, or our freshman coach come over just to watch, or I would have them judge themselves, because I wanted to put myself apart from the guys that were doing the actual events and practice shorthand. And I just did that for about 2 weeks. The most important thing that I did for me was picking the 3 that I was comfortable with, but then start values. I wasn't as focused on getting, deductions sort of I can keep track of in my head and I'd make a note, but the start values were important to me. I think that obviously the foundation of scoring for the sport. So getting the start values correct, accurate, and in the time allotted was really important. And that's what every day was about 15 minutes on each event. I would just spend only judging those 3 so that I knew clearly if I would go to a meet, I didn't know who else was judging that meet, but I could then ask them, hey, I'm really only comfortable on pommel horse rings and floor. Do you mind if I can do those? Hopefully I was with a more veteran judge, so they know all of the events pretty well, and even if they weren't comfortable, it's like, oh, this is your 3rd meet, for sure, I'll take those, I'll take rings. So just practicing in the gym, taking 15 minutes out each day.
How about you?
I guess for me, a couple things. I would always attend the USAG Judges Clinic, and then from there, just started to get some tips and pointers. And then they told me that if I was going to be a judge, maybe I should start practicing symbols. So what I started to do is I started to have fun with it. I was watching Worlds, I was watching just clips online, and I would just practice writing down the routines with symbols, and I thought, this is kind of cool. And then after that, I started to, looking at, for me, ever since we went to the FIG, JO level 9 rules, for some reason it now all makes sense to me. Our old rule system never made sense to me. Judging it, figuring out start values, and this seemed easy. So, practicing the symbolism and then practicing the symbols with deductions. And then after that, looking at element groups and then coming up with start values. Another thing that really helped as well, when I started to go that direction, I would, at any meet, I would go up to the other coach from the other team and just go, look, do you mind if I judge you guys? I'm not going to go ahead, I'm not going to conference with the judge. This will have no effect on, but I'm looking at getting into judging. Can I do that? So, Billy would go, yeah, go ahead, go judge. So I would go practice judging, and then I would go, when those guys were done, then I'd go back to my home team, and I would practice. And then there's, all the judges are so approachable. Afterwards, we would take a look at it. All right, did you do this? Did you see this? I remember I was, after I was done, I went over by Greg Dittich, and Greg was like, we were right on, and Greg's like, but did you catch this? And I'm like, no, I didn't. He didn't do a circle out of that. He didn't try to do a big A out of that. So you started to learn and just talking with it. And afterwards, the judges love to sit and talk judging afterwards. So that I would jump into that conversation, and that seemed to help a lot. And then, and then after that was just kind of like I said, I was consistently practicing. I invited Hillary Carlson to come in. She and I sat shoulder to shoulder in our gym, judged in a squad together, and that's kind of how I started to get going.
Yeah, I actually forgot. I did the same thing, and with Dittich, and there was a meet that I was judging rings kind of over the shoulder, and for 4 out of the 5 varsity scores, I was like within a 10. I'm like, and that gave me so much confidence. Yeah, I'm like, I got this. And then I totally blew the next score, but just to get that close was really a good sign. All right, so tell us about your first meet. How nervous were you? How did it go?
For me, my first meet was it was just a dual meet, nothing crazy. I would probably advise the same thing, of course. You don't want to be jumping in there with any of the high scorers or anything like that. Normally, and the person who will assign you stuff will normally even a less competitionally important meet, of course. So mine was just between Niles West and Evanston, and I wasn't nervous. I'm used to gymnastics, so I was fine. I felt confident enough, and of course, I'm not judging state, so and again, it didn't really matter that much. So pretty much just taking that first meet, and I always have a goal, and I learned this in my first meet, is that you always want to have a set number of things you should be learning from each meet. I always go into every meet, still to this day, learning. I want to be learning at least 3 things every single meet. I learned that on my first meet because there were a couple errors on vault. I think one of the kids, it was a really close call between if his butt hit first and his feet hit first. I was gonna give him a 0 because it's not a complete vault if you hit butt first, but because it was my first meet, I decided to give it to err on the side of the gymnast and gave it to them. And I'm not going to touch on the interesting part of that first meet until one of the later questions, but my first meet was fine, and it shouldn't really be it's the first meet, and the coaches should also know that it's your first meet, and if they don't, I at least made them or the other team aware that this is my first meet. If they have any questions or anything like that, please to come forward, because as your first time judging, or new time judging, you want to let the coach know. And I always learned that if you want to ask the coach if they have anything special in the kids' routines, like anything crazy that you might not know about. Like last year, Duel, the head coach for GBN, I asked him on P-bars, and he said, actually, yes, I had one of his kids with 3 teeth in there, and I had no idea what trick that was. And I looked it up, and I was like, oh, thank you for letting me know, because now when I look at this routine, I'm not going to sit there and be, I had no idea what I just saw. What am I looking at? So just understanding that the coaches are there to talk as well as
yeah, I was very nervous my first night.
Yeah, me too. kidding. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't
was
know.
terrified.
I wasn't scared at all.
Despite
I was
all of the
whatever.
preparation, I was like, oh my god. And I picked a dual meet, maybe not particularly competitive meet, and I was still like, oh my god, what if I screw up? I don't want to, like,
Of course.
I'm being judged even though I'm the judge. It was at Wheaton Co-op, and I, I'm relatively close to that. I know Greg, the head coach there, fairly well, but he's also kind of a fireball. So I had to tell him, like, hey man, this is my first meet. Like, go easy on me. I'm doing my best. And he did. He was really nice about it. He said, don't worry about it. I'm going to get in your face. I mean, this is early on in the season. The scores are important, but they're not make or break your gymnastics season. So I was very nervous going in. I was actually more nervous not about underscoring, but about overscoring. And the first meet in particular, I found myself looking at the reactions of the kids, despite telling myself, like, it doesn't matter. The score that I gave is the score that they earned because that's what I saw. And yet I still found myself, and a lot of times kids were like super excited, and it was clear that I was being a little more generous than I should have. But despite my urge to then be more generous, or to be more unforgiving later on in the meet, I was like, I gotta do this is how we started. I just have to be as consistent as I possibly can. And honestly, after that first event, first meet, I started to get in the groove a little bit. I started to feel a little more comfortable. Taking my time with the scores was a big thing. I'm obviously going to take a little bit longer, but I didn't let any of that. I tried not to let any of that outside pressure affect how quickly I was fresh. But yeah, I mean, I was nervous at first, and then I fired out some wrinkles and started to feel much more comfortable.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm certain that this happened to one of you, if not all of you. What happens when you glance up and look down and you know you missed something? Okay, and how do you recover from something like that as a judge instead of just kind of brushing it off like, oh, you know what, I'm just going to insert this right here? Because it has to.
I think for like with it's high school gymnastics, and sometimes you just know a little bit of a flow of a routine.
Yeah,
Sure.
And
He's on top of the P-bars.
Yeah. So
Somehow he got there.
like,
I had no idea how quick P-bar routines was until I started
Yeah,
judging them.
and-
And I looked down
you just
once.
got a
and the
little
guy's
bit
off
of
the
a, you
bar.
get a little bit of a flow of the routine. So with that said, if you did miss something, you just kind of know, maybe I missed a giant. You know what I mean? Or, usually after this, it's a Moy. You know what I mean? I saw him fail. It was clearly a Moy. But I'm not lying. Practicing the shorthand, the symbols, helped me with the less looking down and up. But like I said, you just gotta, you really kind of know what you see trends in gymnastics, and I think the trends in gymnastics really tend to help with that.
Yeah, my thing that I always, especially coming back on P's, when I was learning how to judge P's, because I normally judge horse, and that I consider pretty fast, but P's was surprising to me how fast, especially on my first year, not so much my second year, but on my first year, I would find myself watching completely, and then as they would do something, since I wasn't exactly super comfortable on P's, I would look down and I would look up, a completely different position. I wouldn't fret about it at the moment, like when you're looking at it and you realize you missed something, don't let it affect you, just continue the routine and let it finish. And then when it's done, look back at the tricks, and it's especially important if that was like your sixth trick. It's a little bit less like alarming if they have 6 or 7 tricks and maybe you missed an A. It's still important, but it's a little bit less. But when you do have those like 5 tricks, and then you especially realize this kid has 6 tricks in his routine of clearly, then you look through your tricks, you're like, okay, he's doing an L here, but he was doing something else on the other side of the P-bars here. He somehow got here. How did he get there? It might take a little bit longer to judge, but my thing, as you said, don't worry about how long it is, as long as it's not like an extreme amount of time.
I had to train myself to do that, to not feel the panic of like, I don't know what that just was, but yeah, just keep going through, and instead of like thinking about the fact that you missed it, we know gymnastics. I have to keep reminding myself as a judge I know gymnastics. I know what comes next, or what's likely to come next. Or, you know, if it's you started at point A and you got to point C, there's only so many ways. You know, the point B is in between.
And sort of logic in finding.
Yeah.
Anything that happens for sure.
And if you know if that's a beautiful thing about being at a 10-0 system. If he's an awesome kid, you know he's at a 10-0.
Because he started at a 10.
Yeah, so now you're like, you're home free, you're just counting tens. You're like, thank you. And finally, you know, I'm just counting tens, man. Because you're not gonna be scoring like in USAG. All right, this is a 12.5, you know. So it's nice.
And yeah, and since you guys mentioned P-bars, like, especially on P-bars, and for me it's a little harder on horse, but rather than waiting to absorb what they're doing, like, I'm mentally preparing for, like, look at this setup. Like, he's gonna drop into the bars or something. It might be, I don't know if it's a peach, I don't know if it's, you know, a calf or whatever it is, but I know the general trick that's about to happen. And so I'm like prepping my brain for that. So for me, it was more like in year 2, more like I started anticipating grooves. And then like high bar got stupid easy. Because by comparison, there's so much time. Like, okay, I got all this time when it comes around to the next, you know, the next giant. Like, I know what he's setting up. And so now for me, judging is almost more like confirming what I'm expecting, but then still being able to like adjust on the fly. Like, oh no, he did something different. But once you remember, like, your gymnastics eyes are pretty but anyway, I want to get back because I know Orna, your first meet, I think you were like thrown into the fire.
Yeah, so I had no intentions of judging last year. But after like seeing like the 10th email from Bob saying that he needed a judge, and then I'm hearing all these horror stories over on the north, you know, more of the north suburbs that you have coaches judging, you know, that's when I went up to Billy and I was like, you know, you mind if I pick up a meet here and there? And he was gracious to let me go. So yeah, I went halfway at the end of the season, and I literally, man, I judged a couple dual meets, and then I got thrown right into a conference invitational for the MSL, and then after that, a JV meet conference. So my first meet, like you guys said, I was really nervous, but at the end, I was the axe murderer. I was tough as all get out, but at least they were like, holy cow, were you tough, Jason? But they respected that I was consistent. That's a big thing to most. And then I sat there and I went and I watched the scores roll in, and all right, this is a consistent trend that this team usually is here and this team's here, but within this sort of point range. I looked at the range. I didn't look like, all right, you're 135 and you're a 132. You know what I mean? So I scored you 127 and you were 125. So my range was
the relative sorting was
yeah,
fine.
exactly. And then next thing you know, I judged Mundelein with Bob, and then they were like, Christmas came early with Jason. And then I settled in. It was really nice. You know, I always reflect, like my son gets a lot of anxiety when he does homework. I got to be able to judge alongside Keith at the MSL meet, and I just felt myself, just so I could like sit next to someone, and we were just chatting through it. And then we were like, probably by like after the first team, we were pretty close to a 10 to 2 tenths. We were in range pretty much the whole meet. So that was really kind of cool. We just got in sync, and that was the best judging experience I had yet, was that moment. And then the last one was an absolute disaster. In the middle of the meet, I ended up getting the rotavirus. Oh. That was at Brook North. I had to stop the meet twice. So they go, it's the room, and I'm watching JV routines, and that room is spinning, and I'm trying to drink Coke to settle my stomach, and then I'm running out. It was horrible. So that was a miserable experience. I'm surprised I made it home that day.
All right, so that leads us into your worst experiences as a judge. I think that's got it covered. Liam, we need the short version.
Yeah, super short version. On my first meet, I consider myself a by the rules or by the book judge. If someone gets a 1-0, I will give you a 1. And the reason why is when I was learning how to judge, I mostly learned from Mukai in my own gym, and I would say that you are, again, a very by the book judge, and when I see a 1-0, I will give it a 1-0, and I don't have, it's our job, because I believe that it's unfair if a kid gets a 1-0, and then let's say a kid goes after him, and he actually does better, and he gets a 1-7, if I gave that kid that I gave the 1-0, a 1-5, you know, it's not really fair to the kid, and that's my rule, and so some coaches might not agree with that. And when you give their whole freshman team a 1-0 on a certain event because they deserved a 1-0, they might get a little bit confrontational. And you have to just you need to understand where you sit as a judge, and you need to understand that your ruling and what it is the ruling, and that you don't need to explain. You can, you should, but you should explain the reasons why you gave the score that you did, and you should explain, and you need to turn any coaching confrontation that comes to you, you need to turn into a learning experience, into either for you as a judge, because either you messed up somewhere, or a learning experience for the coach. Either the coach misunderstands something fundamentally, or they're just not on the quite same page as you. So the most difficult thing that I had to deal with is just coaches coming up to you that may not know exactly what you know, and you need to explain it to them in a very professional and timely manner to continue on with the meet, because the coach continued to try to address the issue. So it just becomes down to stand by your ruling, don't really give it, and turn any confrontation from a coach or a gymnast into a learning experience. Right? It needs to either be for you, you need to take it as like, maybe I did do something wrong, or clearly if the coach is wrong, as this case was, because you thought that the freshman routine started out with a 7-0 automatically instead of 2-5 without the bonuses. Clearly this was a learning experience for the coach. So that has been every single time that I've had a problem judging, it's always just been a coach coming to me with an issue, and then you have to understand how to handle that in a very professional manner, because it's very easy, especially for me, to get into like, I know I'm right, like this is wrong, but I haven't had any like horror stories. Just a couple confrontations with coaches that I think overall the whole idea of like coaching and judges having a connection is important, clearly, and it needs to be kind of understood that if there is an issue, it needs to be a little bit less hostile for judges and coaches, and it can just be a learning experience. Because clearly, if there's an issue, someone somewhere misunderstands you. So, no horse.
Yeah, I don't really have any nightmares. I was lucky enough to have pleasant judging experiences. But I do remember one particular instance I was judging. It was like my second meet. I was at Downers Grove North. And I remember I'm judging floor. And if you've ever been to it's like in their practice gym, but their stands kind of go up. So you sort of feel like you're in like a coliseum, like arena sort of. And I'm judging floor, and the whole crowd is back there. And I remember taking my time and really wanting to be correct with my scoring, and I'm like kind of talking to myself out loud and looking down see, and the girl who was flashing the scores was sitting next to me. She was like I don't know, sophomore or junior or something, just leans over and goes, "Are you new at this?" I just remember like stopping and being like, "Yeah, but." You hurt my pride a little bit. That was probably the worst thing that I could remember, just being like, God, isn't that obvious? And then the whole time I was like, all right, I'll just talk to myself anymore then. I'll just mark everything down every time I talk out loud. But yeah, that was probably the worst, which is that bad.
Well, I mean, for me, like right out the gate, I was always a very harsh but fair and I think consistent judge. And I can tell this because you're sitting right here. I think it's my first year of judging. I was down at like a Hinsdale Central invite or something. And you guys were there, and I just was really harsh on your floor guys. I mean, the whole meet, right? And Alex had come up and he's like super respectful. You did it the right way, okay? He's like, we've had a couple of meets. Our guys are doing really well, but this is by far the lowest they've scored this year. He's like, super respect. I'm just trying to understand it. And the whole time, there's the part of me that's like super confident, like I know the rules, I know the deductions I saw, I give my sheets out so that people can, you know, see like what I'm doing, right? So there's that part of me. The other part of me is like, oh my god, like did I screw this up? Am I totally like, you know, doing the wrong thing here? And like literally as I'm like having a conversation with Alex, my brain is going back and forth between those two thoughts. And yeah, I mean, you just gotta, like for me, it just took time to get used to like I know I'm going to stick to my guns, but it's not always easy to stick to your guns. So like having that commitment to it is step one. Step two is like fully owning it and getting comfortable with it, and that takes time.
My brain is bouncing back. Should I yell at this guy? Do I want to do this? Or should I just stay for something?
Oh, there was like this clenching, you know.
And thank you for giving out your sheets. That's
Yeah, I always do.
appreciate that a lot.
That I mean, and that was one thing for me that like a big thing for me to get over was like I'm a perfectionist. I hate screwing up, but like I realized as a judge I'm going to make mistakes, and so I don't want to just like swallow them and slink away. Like I wanted to make them public as possible. And like Liam says, that I can learn. Because if I keep screwing up the same thing, meet after meet after meet, then I'm just a horrible judge. So,
well, it also, I mean, from a coach's perspective, which I think is a later question that you might have, but from a coach's perspective, I take a sheet like that, especially, I almost like it when the scores are lower than what they've normally been scoring, because then I can see the potential of what a judge might see later on down the road. So I use that even if a kid has been getting a 9.0, now he got an 8.2. How did he get that 8.2? Oh, well, potentially he could have lost 3.
Don't you think a lot of that is the interpretation of deduction from judge to judge?
It gives them both ends of the spectrum. It's like, well, I would always give this credit, but clearly the judge.
Most of that should come out of that execution.
Right.
The execution that's seen differently.
Yeah,
Because the others
exactly.
are more objective rather than subjective.
Right.
Yeah, because you have the same star value.
Occasionally you'll miss an element group, and that's what you wonder, well, how did I miss that element group? And that makes a big difference. That's 5/10 right there. But if I can say something about being nervous, hey, you could be judging for 50 years, and that first couple of meets, you are still nervous. You are still questioning yourself whether you should be doing it. And
Is this supposed to help us, Howard?
it's just the fact that we want to do a good job, and we're worried that we don't know everything we need to know for that meet. You know,
especially when you got the element groups checked, you have the skills checked, you have the skill values checked. Damn, the bonus.
Right.
You know, and then it's like, you know, and then all of a sudden it's like, I always miss a bonus. I miss 1/10 here and this 1/10 here, you know. So.
One thing Blaze always says is the score that comes out is the right score. And whether it is or not, that's the score that's going down on the score sheet. And after the meet, that's when I agree. It's a learning experience for all. And if you have coaches that understand that we're human and that we need new judges and that we're all going to make mistakes, even the old judges, that we try to come together and make sure that the mistakes that are made, particularly toward the end of the season, are next to none. And that's what should happen during the course of the season. And I really appreciate the fact that we get young people starting to move into the field. I want to tell you about one of my first judging experiences. This was back in the early 70s, maybe late 60s. And I don't know if this has happened to you, but coaches are very competitive against one another. It doesn't matter if they're scoring 100 points or 140 points. If they get another team that's comparable to them, they want to win just as bad as anybody. Well, I was judging a meet by myself with it was at Maine East, and at that time Tommy Gardner was the coach. And I talked to him about this later in life, but he didn't remember it. But there was a young man by the name of Dennis Mazer. We all know Dennis. He was a coach at Buffalo Grove. Well, he was an excellent ringman. And scored him. He did a nice job. Scored him in the, maybe it was a 9-0 or so, I can't remember. And the next thing I know is right behind me, the clipboard of the coach slammed on the floor. And if you're sitting in the judging chair and you know that the coach was upset, I don't care who you are, it's going to affect you for the rest of the meeting. And you got to learn not to let that affect you, because it will. And it will influence your scores for the remainder of the meet. But I didn't know what he was upset about until the end of the meet. But he won the meet easily. Mazer won the event, and he was upset because he should have got scored higher, and he won the event. And I said, well, you guys won the meet, you won the event, maybe his score should have been higher, but that's the way I saw it. And you're going to get coaches that are going to try and influence you in that way if it's a tight meet, perhaps, and you want to be careful. I don't think too many of us do that these days, but you never know. There are still coaches out there that technically may want to influence your decisions. So be careful with that.
I want to jump ahead to Jason, asking you, like, you have a family, you're coaching, how do you make time? How are you dealing
So
with
yeah,
that?
it's hard because, freshman gymnastics coach, I was in the heart of USAG season, so I was getting my little guys ready for state meet and regionals. And then on top of that too, I'm teaching, I teach literacy, so the common assessments are coming in, and so it was really difficult. So, like I said, what helped with the gymnastics is, at that particular time when I really felt it was okay for me to start scheduling myself to judge is when my freshmen had a good foundation. They know the bonuses, we've gone through all these progressions, it's basically fine-tuning routines. I knew they were fine there. We had the older boys could watch over the younger ones. They're fine. I can go judge. My wife was more along the lines of, we want high school gymnastics to be there because if Chase decides to go there, we want that available to him. So go ahead. We know it's hard, but just go do what you need to do. Go judge. And so I really try to keep it to only one meet a week. I knocked out 5 meets at the very end, but it was 1 meet a week. That was it, 1 meet a week. And I really also too, I just looked to see where there was the most need. Where there was the most need. I saw at the end there, I let the judges come in and filter in, and then I was just kind of all right, how much do I actually need to judge? And then I was thinking, all right, I can go fill in here, fill in here, fill in there, and that's kind of where I just kind of filtered in. And but yeah, it's hard. You're utilizing I was utilizing almost every minute of my day. But when Sunday came around, I made sure I basically spent that quality time with my family. I really gave them my all that Sunday, or when I was home, I gave them my all. You just really compartmentalize your life, It's like school. This is all I'm focusing on right now. When I'm here, this is all I'm focusing on. So I really try to compartmentalize my life. It's intense. At the end, there's some things that I was you start saying no to a few things, but you do what's essential for the sport. So some things that are not so essential, like your golf, you know what I mean? I was like, I can't do this, but I can do this for you. I know this is where the need is. So just kind of.
It's a bit of a source of contention at my home. We've gone 2 nights a month for association meetings, then coaching, and then you're also going to judge. So one of the ways that I've gotten around this, and maybe it's not super ethical, but at the same time, if we need the judges, what I typically do is I look at where my Frosh and my JV are, so it's a little bit less intense meets. The other coaches are doing it too. People don't really care, but I would typically try to sign up for the coaching sophomore and freshman invite, one-to-line Frosh soft, and then our freshman JV conference meets. So I've been, the last 3 years, I've been at least 5 meets a year, and it's mostly my team's there, so I would have been going there anyway, is what I tell my working. I would have had to show up anyway as a coach. I'd like to go support my underlevels. I'm also going to be judging there. So typically those meets have 3 or 4 coaches as judges that their teams in. Scott, Zach, Ryan, Hammond, all these guys are kind of judging some of the meets that other
from
tell her to buy
judging,
something to go out to
yeah,
dinner.
every dollar I made
Here's
from
90
judging
bucks.
went to family time. Every dollar, nothing came. We didn't pay one bill with it. All of it went to family time. So we took a 2-week trip to Colorado, go visit my brother. The whole thing was spent on, with judging money. So I just made sure that, every dollar I made, this is going to allow us to do this as a family. Don't spend it on bills. Don't spend it on, something
great way
for
to sell
yourself.
Yeah.
Put it into the family. Invest it into that quality family time. You know what I
It
mean?
is a pretty penny.
This is one more night and whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's wrap up with either what you like most about judging or how it's impacted you as a coach, your team, that sort of thing.
For me, I coach club, normally like level 5s to like level 8s for girls, and for boys as well. For the younger ones, normally like 4 to 6. And certainly after judging, you really do kind of see it. And I'll give Batista credit for this thought. I always think that no matter where you're coming from, if you have a different perspective, you're a better athlete than you are. So now that I competed as a gymnast, now I have that perspective. I know what it feels like to compete. I was a coach for 6 years, still going on. I have a different perspective. Now that I'm a judge, I can take that perspective, and certainly it is a different perspective from a gymnast or an individual coach. And now you can apply what you learned judging or anything during the judging world. You can now apply that to coaching. And I've learned, I've become not a stricter coach, but I've certainly become a more form-based centric coach, because as a judge, when you sit in the chair and really give every single bit of your mental strength to looking at just the tiniest of deductions, you start realizing them a little bit more, just all the time. And my gymnast, the second I came back after my first year of judging, I was like, wow, you guys do not point your toes at all, ever. And now that's my main thing, is that I'm very strict on the very tiny things. For club girls now, I don't judge girls, but I can count tenths on their beam routines, and I can come back and I say, look, I don't know what your whole score would be, but I know for a fact that on your beam section here, you have 8/10 off on just 1/10 of deductions. Toes, knees, hips. These tiny things really do become a lot more obvious when you are sitting and judging, and then you can take that back to the gym. And I certainly have seen progress in my boys and girls in terms of just the tiny rounds of form, and that for me has been the biggest upside of what I can take away and actually apply to something else from judging, because it is a completely different perspective. And when you are sitting down and looking at every minute detail, you do start realizing, hey, when I come back to my gym, where you see something, and I remember one time I was judging horse, and I was watching, I was like, my kid does that same exact thing, and it was just something wrong with the way he circled on his legs. It was like bending like this as he was coming back. I realized, I was like, oh my God, one of my boys does that. I'm going back to that gym, because now I know how ugly it looks. I look at my judge, I'm like, oh, that's 2/1/10 just for something that simple. I come back and suddenly that boy now has more of a perspective from me. Hey, I was judging the other day, and I saw exactly what you're doing. You are going to be conducted for this, fix it. And that's probably been the most tangible experience.
You fix what you can't stand as a judge.
Exactly, yeah. And you when after a while of judging, you really see the same thing over and over again, especially at the freshman and sophomore level. It's heartbreaking sometimes to sit there and judge, and just judging bad gymnastics is a lot harder than judging good gymnastics. I'll say that, and you really do start picking up on the individual mistakes that the sophomores. When you see the sophomore do the horse routine and it's the same thing, like ugliness over and over again, you can start seeing it and then apply it to your boys.
I'll be brief. Just two things that I have to say about what it's brought to me back to the gym. It makes explaining deductions to the kids that much more logical. I also work in sales, and sometimes all you need to do to make a sale is explain to them, is literally write out the math. Look, I know it looks like you're only saving 10 cents on this, but 10 cents compounded over 6 months, you're paying 10 cents every single week. You just multiply that out, and look, by the end of the year, you're saving $800. It's really easy to explain to them when you see it over and over. Logically, this is what you do. You want to get to that 8.5, 8.6, then you have to stop separating your legs at the bottom, because that is literally the only thing that is separating you from getting to that score, from being in the upper echelon. That top tier is these tiny things. It makes it more logical, more easy to sell. It also makes it a little bit more easy to sell myself to them. When they see me, because I usually go straight from practice to a meet, they see me putting on suit pants with a blue jacket with a little IHSA badge. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, maybe he really does know what he's talking about. Holy cow! Like, obviously, other teams are using him for their meets. They must trust what he's saying, and then you can come back then and say, look, I just judged the meet yesterday, freshman, JV, whatever, varsity. I just judged that. All 5 of the kids that went up made the same exact mistake. All 5 of you are making the same exact mistake. We're not going to do that anymore, okay? Because that's the difference between winning by a point or losing by a point. You know, that's those two things I would say in the judging house.
I think on that line, the kids always think that bigger gymnastics is better gymnastics.
Oh, yeah.
You can